You're welcome back to the Gavel. We continue with the interview with the lead director of the Center for Social Justice, Mr. Onyekpere, on the 2019 budget.
The return revenue cannot pay for recurrent and debt combined. So we're even borrowing money to pay back the one we borrowed in the past. So combining recurrent and debt payment, the return revenue doesn't cover it. So that's true, and that's an unfortunate situation. That's why we are saying, when you are inside the hole, do you continue digging? Do you continue borrowing? Yes, there will be hardship. But this is predicated, my suggestions is predicated on the fact that there is more transparency and accountability about public funds. If we have only 1 trillion, and without it being mismanaged or stolen, you use it for the economy, and everybody sees you are using it for the economy, it will become easier for you to tell us to say, please, let's endure. Let's pay a little more for petrol. Let's pay a little more in VAT. Do you understand? And then everybody can now see that whatever is being saved or whatever new money, they can see where it is going to. But not in this kind of regime. I don't know whether you have this experience with me. Each time you make a withdrawal or you transfer, there's some money, the stamp duties. Where is that money? Where is that money going? We are being told stories. That money is in trillions. It's somewhere in the central bank. Stories of whether there's a litigation or just stories. Okay? So what I'm saying is that Nigerians there are several ways we can get extra revenue. And Nigerians are no fools. It's just like you have a family. If a man and a woman, you call your children that are grown up, you say, look guys, we need a family house, we can't continue being tenants, or we need to change this car. Please, let's cut down A, B, C, D. And in 1 year, we'll do it. And the family, everybody waits patiently. And at the end of the year, they see where you're parking to a new house or you bought the new car. It will be a family joy. But if you say that and after cutting down, they simply discover that you, mommy, went and bought new gold chains and rings when all of them can't even get a Christmas dress, will they talk to you? They will say, mommy, you've deceived us. And that's what is happening in Nigeria. So if we get an accountable leadership, a leadership that lives up to its promises, Nigerians are ready and willing to sacrifice for the next level.
Now, what are the practical solutions to this problem?
The practical solutions is because we are going to election on Saturday. We must open our eyes and elect people who are God-fearing, one, who are competent, who have the capacity, who understand the big picture. If we don't do that, and we are stuck with the old way of doing things, we are not going to make progress. So the practical way is that we should be ready to make some extra sacrifices. And those who are leading should also be ready to make the bigger sacrifice. You don't tell us that you are going to cut down on the jets in the presidential fleet, and you don't do that. You don't tell us you are going to cut down on the vehicles in your fleet, and you don't do that. So by the time the leadership is sacrificing, the people will sacrifice, and everybody knows that in the next 5-10 years, things are going to pick up. Then you can look up to say, even if I'm not a beneficiary, I'm doing this because I have A, B, C as my children. Because if I'm promised that it will be better for my children, I can give anything. And I know any good father or mother will think the way I do.
Now, where are the areas which these leakages are coming from? We've had government ministers, economic experts saying we have a huge problem of leakages.
Of course, you know what they call operating surplus from the MDAs, especially those that have been gazetted under the Fiscal Responsibility Act. They're not returning the money, they're making the money, and they're misusing it and utilizing it in a way and manner not cognizable under our laws. And this is why I'm happy for the developments from the Fiscal Responsibility Commission, where they have devised an operating surplus template. But the enforcement is a challenge. Enforce it to the letter so that more resources will be available to the federal government to do its activities. There are leakages all over the place. And of course, why do we still have an NPC unreformed? What is the state of the petroleum industry bill? Did the executive lead? Did they present any bill to the National Assembly? When the National Assembly passed the bill, why did the president insist on saying no campaign? Did he reach out to the National Assembly to say, these are my concerns, and talk to them as fellow party members? Or did he stand aloof and imperially arrogant and simply vetoes it, doesn't reach out to anybody? It was the executive that was supposed to lead. The bill that was passed by the National Assembly was not an executive bill. So how can you say you are driving the nation forward when you don't lead? Where are the executive bills to take the nation to the next level? None, I can see. So, you know, we are discussing, we can get more money if we pass the petroleum industry bill. And we've seen the quantum of resources we've lost running to 50-something, 60 billion because we've not reviewed the revenue that was due in some of the oil fields that we let out to these multinationals, which Neiti & Co has confirmed. What is the president doing? Telling us he's fighting corruption, moaning and bemoaning that we don't have money, yet here is money before him. He can't take action to grab the money. Low-hanging fruits. So these are the issues. It's not rocket science. If you put a man who understands the dynamics of the economy, if you put a man who gets the big picture, competent, as well as having some level of transparency and accountability, in the next 5 years, and the man puts Nigeria first, I imagine being the president of Nigeria. It's not a question of telling stories. All those limousines in the presidential fleet will be dispensed with. And get Nigerian assembled cars, because do you imagine, you don't need to preach to anybody. The average young man or woman is impressionable, and the president is a symbol of the country. Seeing that your president is insisting he must drive a Nigerian-made or assembled car, many young men and women will be thinking that when they grow up, that is the car they will drive. Right? You begin to, use procurement to grow the economy. You ask people to make sacrifice, they will make, but they must see where you are driving them to. Okay? So I don't think there's any big deal. Challenge our men and women in the universities who have, and outside the universities who have knowledge, the ICT industries, set targets for them. The Americans set a target in around 60 to say, we must hit a man in the moon in a decade. Set targets. We must have a Nigerian fabricated car with the engine blocks and everything in the next 5-6 years. It's doable. You don't need to throw money at it. Set targets. There are different institutes already paid for at the public expense. You ask them to do things. Collaborate with the private sector. All the dressing, the shoes and accoutrements for our armed forces, in the next 2-3 years, we don't have to go anywhere to produce just ordinary shoes, boots and this thing. We have the capacity. You stop that. You begin to take things one by one and establish competitive advantage. Build the capacity. Why is everybody wasting his time in Lagos ports? Demurrage, bad roads, nobody can pass through Apapa. Is it not the politics? Why are they not passing through? If they say the wharf in Calabar or in Warri is shallow, what of the one, DC port? Is the waterfront in Lagos bigger than the one in Port Harcourt? Is it not authoritarian executive orders that they use to channel everything there? Why can't they channel the importation to Port Harcourt? So when we are holding ourselves down because of selfish, ego, tribalistic, and pettiness, they don't know, it's pettiness. Tell me one reason why every ship is anchoring in Lagos and there's heavy delay, demurrage, the roads are spoiled. Tell me one reason why they can't go to Port Harcourt.
You talked about the PIB. We have a presidential candidate, saying that if elected president, he would privatize the NNPC. Would this be a solution?
That's about the petroleum industry reform bill. Yes, private sector has to come in, although the nation should still retain control in such a way that if it is being mismanaged, it can still do something to take it back. But that private sector efficiency must come in such a way as to bring increased revenues, and not the old kind of privatization that was done where people who simply had a briefcase. You must show the capacity, you have the money to turn around, to invest, not just you go and collect it because you have access to power and then go back to First Bank to collect a loan. No, that's no longer the kind of stuff. Other nations have reformed their petroleum industry, so we must not be left behind. So it's not just the raw privatization or, hand it over to X or Y to now begin to continue doing what an NPC was doing. No, the template is that the person or group of persons or companies must improve on NPC's performance. They don't have to fall back on the treasury to fund oil exploration or mining activities. And then if an MPC was bringing in, say, 2 trillion a year, they must bring in 4 or 5 or 6. So that's the kind of idea we are going for, not just the business as usual privatization.
Now, how can the National Assembly come in to block leakages, revenue leakages?
Well, they can come in if oversight is properly exercised. And this oversight is not oversight for their selfish ends. It's real oversight that is in the national interest. And that's where the politics of it all comes in. Like I did say, we are going to the polls. We must shine our eyes in the proverbial Nigerian way to elect people who are trustworthy. If you are going on oversight and all you are doing is to make money out of the MDs or the parastatals, then nothing is going to change. And also, we need to take ourselves more seriously in the media and in civil society. We need to focus more on these agencies that anchor transparency and accountability, National Assembly, EFCC, ICPC, Auditor General, and ask them to live up to their mandates, what is expected of them. Otherwise, we'll be running round and round. And there are new innovations that are coming up in open governance. Nigeria's commitment under the Open Government Partnership. Open contracting, so that Nigerians will know who and who are doing government contracts and the stage of the contracts, how they is benefiting the people, and then a publicly available register of beneficial owners of companies, not just nominal owners, because it's a fact that most of the people you see as owners and directors of these companies don't own them.
Now, this is where we call it a day on this week's edition of the Gavel. If you have any views on any of the issues discussed, please email us on thegavel@channelstv.com. Thank you for staying with us and see you again next week.